You know, if you take everything I've accomplished in my entire life and condense it down into one day, it looks decent.
Good evening, party people. Welcome to another episode of The Decent Show. Reagan and Ryan as always, and we're going to be doing a little rapid-fire review, except it's not going to go that quickly because we're doing 5 pieces of content instead of our usual 10, so we are going to spend a little bit longer describing the 5 things that each of us have watched here recently during Corona, COVID, whatever you prefer, gender pronoun. Anyway, Reagan, what's happening?
Same as always, not much. Watching this stuff, consuming content, create, consume.
Of course.
Yeah, it's going to be a slower version of rapid, yeah. It's going to be a really slow rapid, you know what I mean? Like a slower one.
But I guess episode length might be the same since we do have less titles to go through.
Oh, we can fill time.
Yeah,
we can fill some time.
I can fill it. Oh, I forgot about. I have so many movies to tell you about, but I've already picked 5, so I'm gonna stick with it. Who's going first, me or you?
Who's on first? I'll go first.
Abbott and Costello, what you got?
All right, you already know my list, so it's not gonna be that big of a shocker to you.
Okay.
But
20, I like the list.
Yeah, 24. The show. It's from like 2000 or so. It's like pretty. I guess it's kind of old, but it's pretty newish, and it's.
Yeah, it was like early 2000s, I thought.
Well, the thing is, like, it's early 2000s, but I think the 8th season, and then like they had a spin, like a Reborn or whatever, like came out like 5 years ago or 4 years ago. Like
is that
pretty
part of
recent.
The 8 seasons?
I don't know. Not on Hulu. It's not on Hulu. Only the 8 original seasons.
Okay, 8 original and then Reborn.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's basically the show takes place over a 24-hour period of one day, and it starts at midnight one day and ends at midnight for the next day.
And he doesn't sleep.
That is one of my problems with the show. Is like, I was trying to buy into it for a while, but then I was like, all these people, because it involves very many people and it goes around. It's not just the main character, Jack Bauer. Like, I'm like, man, how can you not? You would need to sleep. I don't care how high your adrenaline is. Like, you would be asleep for some of these things, and some of these hours would be more boring than they are. You know, like, you couldn't have something like this go on every single hour for an entire day, even if it was the most crazy day ever, which it is. But yeah, basically.
But then it always is every episode or every season.
Yeah, I guess they must do a time jump. There's no way it's just 8 consecutive days, because I feel like they must have a new plot every time. But yeah, it's basically someone's trying to assassinate a presidential candidate, and the reasons are pretty deep and pretty decent, actually. It's about there was an attack that he basically signed off on to take out a bunch of these like terrorists, basically, and that family is. The remains of people remaining after that terrorist family are coming back, trying to kill him now and get their revenge on him and the main character, because the main character was the one doing the killing.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the and the main character has his family stolen, and like there's part of the revenge as well, and it takes place over several different locations, and there's a lot of like twists and turns of like who's dirty, like who can be trusted, stuff like that. A little bit of like MacGyver sort of stuff in there too, because he's put in like difficult situations. But honestly, sometimes the show is like, it's just, you need like 10 episodes that are an hour long, I feel like, to tell the story. I don't think you need 24 episodes that are each an hour long, you know. It's just, that's a lot. It's a lot of stuff happening. When did you start
watching it?
It's an iconic show. Like, I've heard about it a lot. I don't know if you've heard about it a lot.
I have, yeah. Saw a lot of TV ads. Random people have DVDs of it at their house.
And it's on Hulu, and I've heard good things. And I was like, what am I gonna watch now? You know, so that's pretty much all it takes, is if it's just right there.
So you think the plots are decent? You think some of it's unrealistic? Seasons are too long. How's the acting? How's the characters?
It's, you know what? It's surprisingly decent. I would say it's better than most generic action movies. Most of your like Netflix level, TV level drama and acting, I think it's better than that. I think it's better written than that, and I think the acting is better.
Okay.
But I don't think it's movie level, you know what I mean?
Of course.
I don't think it's at that level. Like a big budget movie, I guess I mean. But yeah, I would give it decent. I'm going to give it decent for now. I got to finish the season. I'm on like the last 2 episodes or so. And then I got to watch the next season to see if they can improve on it in some way, because I know they're still going to do 24 episodes, but maybe they can cover more characters, more diverse locations. I don't know, just not waste my time with some of the like It's like we were talking about with The Boys, where you can tell they're trying to save money in areas because they have characters just spend an entire episode in a very bland looking room.
Yep.
That happens a lot in the show, and I'm always like, okay.
Really?
Yeah, because they'll spend a lot of time on the daughter or the mom, and they'll be like hostage, and they'll just be in a room, and it'll just be them talking about something or whatever, and then like he'll be held hostage, or he'll be holding someone hostage and interrogating and torturing them, and it'll be just in a room. It's completely cemented off by concrete. But then there'll be episodes where they literally have a high-speed car chase across the entire city of Los Angeles, and it's like, okay, I can see where the money was spent here.
Right.
But yeah, that's my first one.
What network was it on?
I think
Fox.
Fox, yeah.
Of course. Okay, so first up for me, I finally completed Full Metal Jacket. Stanley. What?
Finally completed it.
Yeah, I watched it with Victor like, I don't know, a few weeks, maybe a month ago, and then we randomly finished it like a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
Stanley Kubrick movie about Vietnam. I believe it came out in the late 80s, like 1987. And it's like the tale of two movies to me because...
There's the camp part, right? I've watched the camp part.
Right, the training camp, or boot camp. It's like the first... Basically, it's like a 2-hour movie. First hour is like the training boot camp thing. And the drill instructor is very iconic, very ridiculous, and probably pretty realistic. And then the chubby guy from, I believe, Law and Order Criminal Intent. I think the first spinoff of Law and Order.
He's also the Kingpin in Daredevil.
Okay, and he is also the guy that you can't understand in Magnificent Seven with Denzel and
Channing.
the guy from
Chris Pratt.
Yes, thank you. So anyway, he like the chubby guy. He's like really weird, kind of maybe depressed / gets picked on a lot for being chubby. And he basically goes insane in boot camp and ends up killing the drill instructor like right before they get sent off to Vietnam. He like sucks at everything. He gets roasted all the time. He starts getting really sad and crazy. And then it turns out he's good with guns. He's got a good shot. And so that's getting him some credibility. It seems like he's getting better mentally because he's finally good at something. But he still gets picked on quite a bit. And then, like I said, right before they're going to Vietnam, he's like cleaning his gun in the barracks with it loaded, which I guess is against the rules. And it's also the middle of the night. One of the guys goes in to check up on him and goes, holy cow, you've got a loaded gun. What are you doing? Put it down. And then drill sergeant, who's insane, like yelling at them all the time, comes into the bathroom and goes, what's going on in here? And he starts going off because that's what his character does.
Yeah.
And the captain, lieutenant, or whatever that found him first was like, hey, like, drill sergeant, like, I would chill out. I should let you know that his gun's fully loaded. Like, he's acting weird and his gun's loaded. And the drill sergeant's like, oh, this is real life. This is sketch. Like, hey, private, you better put that down. And private gives like this weird, crazy, cockeyed speech and ends up shooting the drill sergeant when he comes at him, kills him, and then like sits back down on the toilet, says something else, and then like blows his brains out. And it's pretty intense. Like one of the most intense scenes I've ever seen. Very, very tense, very scary in a way, and the fact that the murders are very real or the deaths are very real. And then like obviously the other, like the captain of the privates or whatever that found him first, like watched all of it and barely lived because he could have shot both of them, but he didn't because that was like the one guy that didn't roast him like the most or at all.
Yeah.
So he like didn't kill him. He killed the drill sergeant and then himself. And then like right after that, it's like a whole new movie. Like they're just in Vietnam. It follows the guy that wasn't the bully, and he works for what's called like Stars and Stripes, and basically he's just in the war to document it. He's not actually he has a gun, but he's not really there to kill people. He's there to talk to other soldiers and get their story. And it's just like a whole different movie because that's a whole different vibe. Like the training, the boot camp is like a lot of montage, a lot of hardship. Of course, the war is hardship, but a lot of roasting, I guess, of the big guy. The story really revolves around the big guy and a couple of the key guys in the camp. And then when they go to war, it really just revolves around, I guess his name's Joker, the journalist.
Yeah.
It really just revolves around him. And then like he has some interactions with a group of soldiers that are kind of aggressive and end up getting killed and kind of screwed over, and I don't know, it was weird. Overall, though, I feel like I talked about it too long. Good movie, though. I'd give it a mad decent, because it's just really weird how the movie like switches. But both halves of the movie are pretty good.
Yeah, private jokers again. R. Lee Ermey is the General Sergeant Hartman, who's like the main
drill sergeant.
Yeah, main drill sergeant guy, and he was a Marine. He was in the Marine Corps in real life, and I think the story is he was there trying to teach someone how to actually convey what it was like to actually be in the military and have somebody yell at you like that. And like he did such a good job, they just let him act out that part.
Well, he did great. And like I said, to me, it feels like two different movies, though. That was my kind of, I guess, biggest problem with it. But both halves of the movie were good. So I give it a mad decent.
Yeah, I've heard it's a classic. The other one, another classic, kind of, is Fight Club. Haven't seen this movie in like over 10 years or so, and I forgot about a lot of the weirdness. I forgot it wasn't... I remember it being just like a lot about fighting, and it was about blowing stuff up at the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
And you've seen it, right?
I didn't make it to the end, though.
All right.
But I've had the end
spoiled
for me, but I don't remember the bombs.
Okay, well, basically, spoilers is like the movie... Well, the movie's like super old, so... But, yeah, basically the movie is like this guy is a loser, basically, and can't sleep at night, and it starts out really weird, really dark, because he can't sleep, and he goes to all these places where basically people are, terminally ill or something like that. They're having interventions, stuff like that.
Okay.
And that lets him sleep. Like, he becomes addicted to that. But then because of that, then this woman shows up and basically ruins that for him because he can't stop thinking about her, and he realizes that she's addicted to it too. And
she's addicted to the sleep thing?
She's addicted to going there and like basically having these people pour their hearts out to them because they're going to die, or they've had cancer, or they're just very messed up, like all these seminars. And that lets him not sleep anymore, so then he starts going crazy because he can't sleep and he can't figure out how to do it. And then it's kind of ambiguous, like where he meets this other guy, like Tyler Durden, which is played by Brad Pitt, and it ends up being that he is Tyler Durden. He just made that person up, and he ends up...
It's his cool persona. It's his Slim Shady.
Basically, yeah. Like, it's just who he wants to be, and, it doesn't occur to him that that's actually what happened until the end of the movie.
And he didn't even know he was doing it, right?
No, he doesn't even realize that he was doing it, because the whole reason the Fight Club gets started is he starts fighting Tyler because it's fun. But then you go back and you watch it, and he's just fighting himself. He's just kicking his own ass, and that's why people joined, because they were like, "This guy's crazy. Let's see what's going on over here."
Did they end up fighting each other? Like, do the people that join the club? That's real.
That's all real. Yeah, the only thing that isn't real is Tyler
other?
Durden. Yeah, they fight each other.
So what made them want to fight each other after watching this guy fight himself?
They were just like, "What's going on over here?" They were just checking it out, and then once they had 3 or 4 people, they started having like fights every night in the bottom of this bar, and then they moved to this other place, and then they go from there, kind of a huge jump. They go to this thing of like, they start blowing up the corporate establishments and want to get rid of credit card records so everybody can have a clean slate again, and all these really weird rules and stuff like that. It's very, very much like a screw society sort of thing by the end of it. It's very weird. It's cool how a lot of people know this, but like they insert like stills of Brad Pitt into the movie before he shows up. Like, if you watch the movie, Brad Pitt will appear for like a half second, like as if he's just appearing and then disappearing immediately. And like they just do that because he's slowly going crazy. That's how they show him slowly going crazy. And in the movie, Tyler Durden works at a film place basically, and he changes the film back when it was on rolls. So like they would go over slowly, and he would insert like pictures of his junk basically in between these kids movies, so it would just roll over, and like it would be a 1-second thing, so it's sort of a callback to that. I'd give it Fuego just because it's such an original idea and such a weird movie.
Really?
Yeah, but it is a lot weirder than I thought.
I fell asleep in the middle of it. That's what happened to me. But it's only because it's a little slow, and also the the couch I had at the time I was watching the movie, I had a very good spot on that couch.
So,
I
yeah.
fell asleep through many a movies. And not because...
What couch is this?
It was the one in my first apartment in Canyon.
Gotcha. Yeah,
that gray one.
That's a decent couch.
Gray sectional. Yeah, I used to have that corner spot where I could stretch out. It was fantastic. Anyway, I think the movie, though, I was going to ask you a question revolving the fighting, but I just don't understand how they go from fighting to blowing up establishments. I just don't understand the switch.
It's a little herky-jerky, but basically everyone's so bored of their mundane lives and they're going to work, clocking in, clocking out. They get addicted to the fighting, and they basically they worship him because he came up with this idea, and then he starts going more and more insane, so he's like, I want to do these things now.
And what's causing his insanity?
His lack of sleep, and I think he's just broken. I think he's doesn't have anywhere to go in terms of he's tired of his mundane attitude in life.
That's what I was going to ask you. Are there scenes in the movie where Edward Norton is fighting a person in the Fight Club, and are there scenes where Tyler Durden or Brad Pitt is fighting someone in the Fight Club, and the other one is watching?
Yeah.
How does that work?
They're both him.
So yeah, exactly. So he's just doing double the fights.
Yeah, but I mean, everyone there is crazy, so they kind of see why he would want to be called something and then be called Tyler Durden and then fight again or something like that.
Right. I just don't get how there's not a character break where they're because in the movie they don't do that. The guys don't go. Well, the guys he's fighting don't ever go, hey man, why do I have to call you Tyler again? What? Who's Tyler?
Yeah, I mean he bangs the girl as Tyler Durden and makes her call him Tyler Durden, and she's like, you're such a weirdo, why do you always make me call you that? And it doesn't really make sense, and he's like, just get out of here. And Edward Norton's like, just get out of here, and she says, oh, why? Alright, fine. And then, Tyler Durden will call her later. And it's just very weird. Basically everyone's messed up, and they don't know messed up when they see it.
Fuego, though, too. Very surprised.
So I like how different it is.
Stiff. Alright, so I guess my next one, is a 1982 film called 48 Hours. So I've been doing this thing on Amazon Prime, because they're Amazon Prime, and I have a Star subscription through Prime, and there's just a ton of movies. I have all of them. I have a lot of them on my list.
It's called 48.
And they're all random. No, sorry. That's the name of the movie, 48 Hours. Anyway, they're all random. Some are long, some are short, different genres. Not that many new movies. I think the newest movie on the list is Bumblebee, but I've just been trying to knock out all these hour-and-a-half movies, and so because I'm just trying to get them done, And so 48 Hours is one of them. It's supposedly a classic. Like I said, came out in '82. Action comedy crime with Nick Nolte and Eddie Murphy, and
Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, this is back when he was doing a lot of movies and he was still pretty funny for the most part. Or no, he was still funny, but movie didn't age well. A lot of racism in the movie. Nick Nolte is basically racist to Eddie Murphy the whole time, but not even funny racist like in
Just
Rush Hour.
Yeah.
It's just pretty much comes off racist to me. And then at one point he literally calls Eddie Murphy an N-word, and I was and then slight, I don't know, maybe 10, 20 minutes later, he has a heartfelt apology, but that still wouldn't fly in today's world. Just the way it was all executed. So yeah, the movie didn't age that well. The action was decent. Story wasn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hokey, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. And the movie kind of got better as it went on. I just wasn't crazy about Nick Nolte's character. He was too hard ass.
Yeah.
He was definitely your very stereotypical hard ass, drink scotch in my coffee, don't get any sleep, don't play by the rules cop.
Not even my own.
Right. Yes, that's exactly what was happening. So that got kind of, and then the first review by I guess a user on IMDb says 10 out of 10, an action classic, whatever, best and original buddy cop flick in the 80s. That might be true, but again, they're not really buddies. They basically hate each other, and then of course at the end of 48 Hours, they're best friends, and it's come on.
Yeah, that wouldn't fly.
But apparently this cop, Nick Nolte, is trying to catch a killer, and there's a guy in jail, Eddie Murphy, who has a, I guess, clue or knows the killer because I guess he was part of their gang, but he got screwed over by him. And so Nick Nolte like gets him on some kind of prisoner's leave to help with the investigation for 48 hours. Like he can only, I guess, use him as a witness slash help for 48 hours because again Eddie Murphy's in prison, and I think Nick Nolte is either offered to help him get parole or offered him freedom if he'll help him catch the killer. And of course, I think they do eventually get the killer, but you know, it was an '80s movie, but it was decent. I don't want to give it a bad decent. I'm just gonna give it a very strong decent.
Okay.
It was entertaining for what it was.
Next one I got, Robin Big. It's an MTV show. It's with Rob Dyrdek and Chris Big Black Boykin. Basically,
Boykin.
it's like a reality TV show, but it really doesn't take itself that seriously. It's just kind of like, what can these guys get into shenanigan-wise?
Okay.
One of them is like a famous skater, and the other one is basically that guy's bodyguard. And I was
Rob Dyrdek was a famous skater.
Yeah, he's sponsored by DC shoes, and
he just looks like a guy that would wear DC. I didn't even think he skated.
yeah, he's a very famous skater, and he was probably one of the best when the show was going on. Because I think they go to a competition or whatever, and he comes in like 10th or something out of 500, so he's pretty good. But yeah, he's in there, and then I looked it up, and they start the show because basically they were doing some event, and Rob was, his security guard was Big Black Boykins, who's just an enormous black guy who used to be in the Navy and like has a really good sense of humor and very charismatic.
Okay.
And they had a good rapport with each other, and then a couple years later, Rob tries to have a show, and they didn't really like the looks of it, and he just said, well, what if I brought some other people in, and he brought Big Black in, and everybody loved the show or whatever like that. Anyway, that's how the show gets started because it is just kind of weird to jump into it. But they just do a bunch of crazy stuff. They do a bunch of stupid things. They spend money just willy-nilly left and right. They buy like 1,000 helicopters and they just fly them into a pool, and they get into all sorts of crazy scenarios where they bet on like who's going to be the better skater, and the guy just makes it rain like $1 bills. Like they bet on like an entire thing of $1 bills on like which one's gonna be the better one.
Between the two of them?
No, between Rob and some other guy, and like they break like 24 or 25 Guinness Book of World Records just because they want to one day. I mean, Rob breaks all the skateboarding ones, and then I think Big Black eats like the most donuts in a minute or something like that. He literally does something like that, and it's pretty ridiculous.
Rob Dyrdek broke a bunch of skating records. Like, what would those be? Do you have an example of one?
One's like most ollies in a row. So an ollie's where you like lift up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most ollies in a row without falling. So he beats that one, and then he does one for longest like rail grind, and he beats it by like 75 feet. The record was 30 feet or something. I don't know why he made it seem so easy because they literally broke them. He literally got the plaques and they showed it.
I guess because no one had the effort to, or no one either documented it or no one wanted to put forth the effort to do that. But I mean, to grind for 75 feet, I feel like that'd take for a while.
He did it for 100 and something. The record was 30. He beat it by 75 feet. It was ridiculous.
Jeez.
Yeah, he was hauling ass. They do like crazy stuff like that, and then they'll go and this one guy who's dressed up as Spider-Man, like he's one of the guys on the Hollywood Boulevard. Basically, he throws coffee on their car, so they make it their mission to ruin his life, basically. So at the end of it, they just drive by him and they buy like a net gun and they net him while he's Spider-Man and trying to show off for some kids. They just net him. He looks so funny. But yeah, then I don't want to go into it too much, but basically the show just kind of ends abruptly. Like it just ends out of nowhere.
Just Big had health problems?
Big had a kid, and he was having that kid, and because he had that kid, he wasn't living there with Rob, and all the film crew was just living there with him, so he got kind of tired. Rob just got kind of tired of basically having his life filmed, and having no one else there to hang out with, basically, unless the show was going on. So that's why it ended. I'd give it like mad decent, honestly. It's just kind of a funny show.
I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I don't think I've ever seen an episode. I've only seen like parts of ridiculousness.
It's way better than that show, because that show is basically just America's Funniest Home Videos.
It is, but you know West Coast is on it, so it automatically makes it more trash.
That's true, but you have to hear her talk.
Oh, goodness. My turn?
Yes.
Next one, another 80s movie. Not because I wanted to, just...
Not because I wanted to, but I watched it
It
anyway.
just happens. For Your Eyes Only, James Bond film with Roger Moore, who I guess isn't as well known as Daniel Craig, Pierce Brosnan, and Sean Connery.
Who's the guy who...
Timothy Dalton.
No.
Wait, who's the guy that what?
What were you thinking of?
Timothy Dalton's the one they reference in I Love You, Man.
Oh, yeah.
Who only did like one or two, and I guess is considered like the worst.
Okay,
but...
that's what I'm talking about. I thought... never mind. Please continue.
Teal.
I was trying to think of who the guy is that only did one, and it was like really bad.
Yeah. And then, so For Your Eyes Only, 1981, James Bond is assigned to find a missing British vessel equipped with a weapons encryption device to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. So, once again, important piece of military technology. The enemy wants it. He's got to get it. Lives are at stake.
It's not to control the population, though.
No, I guess not. But it's very. It's got a big advantage in terms of like submarine warfare or just warfare in general. But at first, the story. Like, the opening scene's kind of weird. Actually, the opening scene's very weird. I don't even know how to describe it. Like, just some random Dr. Evil in a wheelchair is, like, hacking his helicopter. And then, like, Bond somehow hooks the... You know how, like, the helicopter has basically, like, you know, when it lands on, those legs that it lands on, and you, like, use it as, I guess, a step up to or whatever. Anyway, he, like, hooks the guy in his wheelchair through that leg or something, and then like drops him off in a chimney, and like he falls to his death. We don't know who the guy is. Like, there's no context. So like the first, I guess, 20 minutes of the movie, there's just not a lot of context to what's going on, and then the story develops. And for an 80s movie and just a Bond movie in general, I had a ton of action.
Really?
Like, I know they're known for their action, but I feel like there's always a lot of story and maybe some sex scenes and stuff happening. But I feel like this movie, every 5 to 10 minutes, there was like a big epic action scene. And it, like, to me, there was, like you always say, they do like a big action scene and then there's like nothing for a while, and like The Boys and those other shows, like, they're just saving money. Or I guess because it's a movie, they just had endless money. But I mean, just, again, an action scene like every 5 to 10 minutes, and they were all pretty entertaining. I was wildly impressed how entertaining and good this 80s action movie looked.
So it holds up for the time.
Right. There's only one scene where he's like skiing down the mountain, or he's doing like a bobsled or something.
And you can tell it's like green screen behind him.
Yeah. The screen behind him's a little rough. But other than that, yeah, action was great. Again, the story takes a little while to develop. It's a little hokey at first. The whole movie's kind of hokey, but I don't know. I was entertained. I was able to watch the whole thing. Also, but by the end, like, once you kind of knew, like, he like gets to the island where the bad guy is, like, you know what he's gonna do. He's gonna kill the guy and win. So I kind of lost interest at the end. And then there's like 2 or 3 different chicks throughout the movie. They just want him. They just, they're trying to throw it at him. They're trying to reel him in, and he's too cool for school. But I give it a mad decent.
Yeah, nice.
Definitely better than 48 Hours. Pretty good movie.
Is that the name of the J. Cole album?
Yeah.
Wow. And there's no reference to that either.
Yeah, not really. They're not really related, I guess.
I mean, like, J. Cole doesn't rap about it in that album at any point. I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Next up, we got Snowpiercer. You talked about this on one of our episodes. It's post-apocalyptic. It takes place on a train. Initially, I thought this movie was, like, phenomenal. I thought this was, like, an amazing-ass movie.
Same director as Parasite.
Is it? Yeah.
And he's actually in the movie, the director.
Which character is he?
I believe he's the crazy...
Is that him?
Crazy Asian guy with the whatever. The substance that they use as a drug and a bomb.
Yeah, it's, like, flammable, and it's...
Yeah.
And you, like, get high off it or something like that. I thought it was, like, a really good movie. I really liked the concept of it. I thought it was really well done, and it was paced really well. It seemed like it was going really great. I love the scene when they go to the daycare and the pregnant teacher just pops out a automatic weapon and starts unloading on everyone. and someone like throws a knife in her neck and kills her. It's just
Who was
super
she unloading
brutal.
on, the Revolution?
Yeah, the Revolution. It was just so unexpected because they were so like happy-go-lucky a second ago, and she just unloads on them, which I thought was really good. And you just, I don't know. That was really good. There was just some weird parts in it, and I don't want to seem like...
A lot of weird parts. It got weird.
It's interesting that he did Parasite, because I thought Parasite didn't have any weird parts in it. I mean, it's a very realistic movie, but there were just some weird things in the movie, like, why did they have that fish, and they cut it all with an axe? There's a part where the revolutionaries meet up with all the soldiers, basically, to overthrow the train that they're on.
Okay.
And they meet up with them, and they're, like, staring them down, like, all right, we're about to fight. And they just have a fish in their hand, and every single soldier, for some reason, takes their axe and just cuts through the middle of it. And they just keep passing the fish around. And sure enough, I looked it up on Google afterwards. It, like, finished it for me. That's how many people asked that question. Like, what is the deal with the fish in this movie? Because I was so perplexed by that. Because it was so... everything made sense. I was, like, digging this movie. And then that happened, and I was just thrown off. I don't know why that was so weird to me.
I guess I barely remember it. What was the answer on Google?
There is no answer. It's just weird. It's just like, yeah, they're just savages. I'm like, why? That's so weird, though. Basically, yeah, though. I like the fact that it's post-apocalyptic and the world froze over, and the only people left alive are the people on this train, because this train is self-sufficient and it goes around the world, which is really sick. And I liked how they kind of realized that it wasn't as cold outside as people were saying.
Right. The Earth had started warming up after about 18 years.
Yeah, and then they crashed the train, and there's only one person left alive, I think, or two. There's two people left alive.
The daughter and the little boy.
And I just kind of wished... I just wish it would have ended in any other way.
Right. I thought the blowing up of the train was a little unnecessary. They could have, I guess, done something else or tried to make something else work. And the way they did blow up the train, like, everybody died, and there's the two survivors, and it's like, okay, so once they procreate, who are their kids going to have sex with? Like, how are they going to keep the Earth going?
That's true.
Without incest.
See, yeah, that's the whole point is, I feel like end your movie with everyone dying, which is fine, or end it with people living. Don't end it with two kids living. That isn't, That's not exciting at all.
And they see, what, a polar bear?
And that's it, and that's how it ends. I didn't like that.
Yeah, I don't know why he made the bomb so big to where it blew up like that. I thought he was just going to blow up the door and then, like, the whole train blows up, basically.
Yeah, I was disappointed in where the movie went, but I'd give it a mad decent. I wish I could give it a fuego.
Yeah, I wonder how the TNT original show of Snowpiercer has turned out.
I do too. I worried that show could probably be stretched out. We're gonna spend an entire season in this compartment of the train. Like, go. Yeah, leave me alone.
I just thought Chris Evans in the movie was interesting too, because he's already Cap at that point.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird seeing him in that role.
And he's a savage, and he's kind of a terrible person too. So
yeah, that's refreshing. Yeah, I liked the movie, but then I didn't like the fact that they're eating roaches that whole time, and that was gross.
I thought they were eating kids. Because they were like, where are the kids going? And they end up working on the train. I was like, well, that's better than eating the roaches.
Yeah.
That was disgusting. But I mean, what else are you going to eat?
I don't know. But it was gross.
True. What's your next one?
That's a great question. I had... I believe Rocket Man, because I wanted to save...
You finished it, huh? Because we tried to start it for like 20 minutes and then we just stopped watching it.
Yeah, you and I started it. We were kind of having a rough time watching it. I watched it, I think with my mom on Prime or whatever streaming service it was on. And I really liked it, actually. I'm glad I watched it. I think that Taron Egerton, I believe is his name, guy from Kingsman, did a great job. In the role as Elton, apparently he actually sang all of the songs. He did all of the singing, so that was impressive because he did pretty dang good.
That is impressive.
I believe his name's Jamie Bell, who is oddly enough Chris Evans' sidekick in Snowpiercer, and he was Elton John's best friend / fellow songwriter / manager in Rocket Man. Thought he did a pretty good job too. There's a guy in the movie who's a total dick that I guess is good, but you hate him. Elton John's parents were just terrible people. The The story was basically very similar to Bohemian Rhapsody in the way that it's told and the way that it plays out, which I was kind of afraid of, but it's hard not to, I guess, just because so many artists from that era had similar come-ups and issues, I guess.
Yeah.
With the drugs and the alcohol and the women and the sexuality. Freddie Mercury was gay and so was Elton John. So they both struggled with that at some point during their lives and their careers because it wasn't as acceptable to be gay back then. And the only difference is Freddie Mercury's parents were much more supportive and Elton John's parents were terrible.
Not, yeah.
Yeah. Or like his mom
They
would
were
support
crap,
him.
right? They
Yeah,
just
they're
left him.
terrible. Like his mom would support him, but she would do it just to like spite the dad, or she would do it kind of half-ass, or she would just really just take advantage of the money or the wealth or the situation. I don't know. She was bad, but the dad was, I guess, worse. And then the fact that it's a little bit more of a musical. Bohemian Rhapsody, they kind of just show you them making the songs and performing them at concert, but like in this, like the songs kind of work into the story. Like he has a song called Goodbye Yellow Brick Road,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever he's kind of having a falling out in his life and with Jamie Bell's character, he starts singing that song, and the lyrics kind of relate to what's going on. So it makes it a little bit more musical style, which at first you and I were watching it, I was not a fan of, but for some reason when I was watching it this time, I really came around to it, really bought into the songs, really felt like the emotional ties to the songs, and that made it much more enjoyable. There were some slow parts, and the other thing I didn't like is like some of my favorite songs, like Rocket Man itself, like
Yeah.
the song Rocket
Isn't
Man.
it in the movie, is it?
It is, but it's like one of the shorter ones. Like they don't do the full song. I also like Benny and the Jets, and that song was pretty short in the movie.
Is it Eminem in the movie at all? Does he do the stand
No,
verse with Eminem?
that's what I told my mom at the end of the movie. I was like, I knew it wasn't going to be in the movie, but I thought it'd be kind of cool if they would have showed Elton John's and Eminem's 2001 Grammy performance of Stan. Like maybe like in the credits or something.
Yeah.
Like it didn't have to be a part of the movie, but it was not in there at all. So overall, I'm torn between Mad Decent and Fuego. I'll just go with Mad Decent because it's not the perfect movie, but very enjoyable. Definitely, I guess, worth a watch if you're into that kind of thing. But also, I already kind of liked Elton John before I saw the movie, so if you like hate Elton John or don't know any of his music, you might not like it as much. That's for you and the fans. That's who I'm talking to.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Why I was kind of done with it after 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's good. I'm glad you liked it. Last movie I'm talking about, I saved it for last because I figured we'd have the most to talk about it.
Of course.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Woo!
Tarantino's movie came out last year.
Dying for you to see this movie.
A lot of people love this movie.
Right.
Although not a lot
And
of
a
people
lot of people
saw it.
are indifferent on this movie.
True.
Or don't like it as well. I mean, there's a lot of mixed reviews. I feel like the critics love this movie.
True. The thing is about this movie is I watched it. I should say first, I watched it in a circumstance in which I was literally trying to run out the clock. So the longer things took, the better.
What does that mean? What do you mean?
Because the movie's long.
I know. What do you mean run out the clock? Like, what were you doing, I guess?
Oh, I was just at work. So I was
you were trying to kill time at work.
So I was
Gotcha.
killing time. So the
Gotcha.
longer something took, the better.
Gotcha.
So that is a huge factor in how I looked at this movie.
Okay.
But I kind of liken this movie to like Batman vs Superman. Now stay with me on this one.
Oh God.
Because
what
like,
a comparison.
Because like when you watch like BVS, you're like, man, there's nothing really wrong with this movie. But then you get to the end of it and you're like, man, that's bullshit. Like we didn't see anything, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I watched this movie and I'm like, there's nothing really wrong with this movie. But we start to ramp up towards the end and I'm like, I feel like this was a waste of time. Like I feel like we just wasted a lot of time here during this movie. And the ending is amazing, but it's also, why is just the ending amazing? Why is there
nothing else happening before that?
And why is there setup at all for any of that? Because the ending could just almost exist after you see maybe 10 minutes of Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. Like, it's just weird, you know? They just throw Bruce Lee in there and he like kind of fights him, and that's kind of a fun scene, but what's the point of it? What's the point of...
A lot of people found it disrespectful or inaccurate, the whole Bruce Lee thing.
Why? Because he can't speak English, or was there a reason?
Maybe that, and just the fact that he got his butt kicked.
Oh, I mean, alright, well, yeah, but I guess, like, I don't know, I just thought it was really, just a weird movie, man. Like, it was just, Like I was thinking about, I was like, L.A. Confidential. That's a movie that, it's all about the 70s. It's trying to like let you remember about the 70s, but there's also a story being told.
Right.
Where this movie was just, hey, it's the 70s in Hollywood. Like, isn't this cool?
Look,
there's no story, but
look at this.
Isn't this cool? Like, I just feel like, as good an actor as Leo DiCaprio is, like, he wasn't really used that well. And why is Margot Robbie Sharon Tate if she has no lines, minimal screen time? Screen time is watching her watch a screen.
Yes.
And they kept cutting back to it too, and she still didn't say anything or nothing happened. I was like, okay, is she gonna get killed there? Is she gonna have a revelation? Is this movie gonna become about her, like, at some point?
Not really.
And yeah,
huge waste of Margot Robbie. I felt like she didn't get to do much. I know Sharon Tate's like a big deal or whatever, but like in this movie, like her story was hardly in it or important or added anything to the story. Nothing exciting happened. Like you said, watching her watch a movie, I was like, why are there multiple scenes of us watching her watch TV or herself with her dirty feet or whatever she was doing? And then that whole scene where she's trying to get into her own movie for free for 25 cents.
and it took forever.
Yeah, that whole part.
And she's rich.
She's trying to, yeah, exactly. She's trying to explain that she's on the poster. Like, I just didn't like any of that. And I didn't like the ranch scene with Brad Pitt where, like, there's all that tension and then nothing happens.
Nothing happens. And it took so long, too. They literally, I feel like them at the screen door between him and the redhead chick took forever. I feel like he was like, can I come inside? She said, no. He was like, I need to talk to my friend. I haven't seen him in a while. He's like, oh, he's sleeping. Like, oh, it's fine. I'll tell him you stop by. He's like, no, I need it. And they just had that conversation back and forth. And then she just lets him in. And then he sees him, and then he says hi, and then he leaves. It's just, and everybody's mad at him for it. I'm like, why are you guys mad? Like, why are you guys that mad? I guess you guys are a bunch of burnouts. But
yeah,
I guess the part about the movie I liked is that he did basically what he did in Inglourious Bastards, where he makes a really historically accurate movie, and then at the very end he just says screw it and just does whatever he wants. He kills
his alternate ending.
Yeah, he just kills Hitler brutally, and then he just kills, I guess, the people assisting the Manson murders, who are gonna kill Sharon Tate or whatever. But it's just. Yeah, man, it was very... If I was watching that movie in the theater, I would be very pissed.
That's how I was.
You were saying something about a bench, where like you went to the bathroom when she was sitting on a bench or something, and you came back and she was still sitting on a bench. What part of the movie is that?
It's like, I think one of the scenes where she's outside the movie theater. Either right before or right after.
Oh, it is Margot Robbie?
Yeah.
Okay, I was trying to think of that while I was watching. I was like, where's this scene at?
Yeah. I was blown away. I was like, let me know if anything happens. And I like went to the bathroom, came back, and she was still on the bench. And I like looked at my mom. I was like, I guess nothing happened. And she goes, hell no. Like,
because the ending of the movie
so
is
slow.
The ending of the movie is so good.
Yeah.
But it's just, why wasn't there a story before that?
I don't know.
It's kind of cool that.
And Leo is acting his ass off. Like that. I don't know, the cowboy scene.
Yeah.
That they made. I mean, a lot of decent acting, but just. What did it have to do with anything?
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like we were just watching old Hollywood and watching acting, and then really the story came to fruition and got exciting at the end, and then it was over. And it was 2 hours and 40 minutes, and Tarantino fans come their pants about it. I've seen most of his films. I think it's one of his worst.
Yeah.
Where does it... I know it's not what the episode's about, but can you give a quick ranking of where this ranks amongst Tarantino films? This is his ninth
movie. It's supposed to be his last. It won't be. Never saw Hateful Eight. Looked really boring.
It was pretty bad.
I haven't seen Reservoir Dogs, which I think has the best chance of me liking it.
Pretty good.
I hear that's a great movie.
Yep.
You've seen it, right?
Yep.
So I need to watch Reservoir Dogs. I really like Inglourious Bastards. I like that movie a lot.
Django.
I like Django, but it is a little long.
They're all long. All of his early ones aren't long. All of his recent ones, Hateful Eight's long, Hollywood's long, and Glorious is long, and the one you just said,
Django.
Django
is long, but I mean, when I say long, I just feel like there's no point to some of that movie. I just wish it was shorter.
Same with Hollywood.
Oh yeah, same thing with Hollywood. But in Inglourious Bastards, it doesn't bother me because I feel like they're building characters and there's interesting things happening.
I haven't seen the movie in a long time.
I really like the villain in that movie too. I'm blanking on his name, but is it Christoph Waltz?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd give this movie. I was I wanted to be like, oh man, mad decent, but I'm like, nah, low key Garbo. It's low key Garbo. It is. I don't see how you look at it any other way. To me, at least.
I don't either, because especially like I'm blown away when people near our age are like, yeah, like that movie. I'm like, dude, nobody has any attention span anymore. You're sitting
Great
there
point.
for 2 hours and 40 minutes of nothing
Not
happening.
looking at your phone, not talking to anybody. You're watching someone just walk around, feed his dog. Some of the little stuff.
Movie has time for this.
Yeah,
throughout the whole movie.
dude, he would say that 1 billion times.
Has he done a Cinnamon Sins on
Yeah,
it?
we never watched it though because I hadn't seen the movie.
I know. Okay, we have to do that after this then, because I need to basically rewatch the movie now and get mad again. But yeah, dude, I saw that movie in theaters, was super excited to see it, and was very mad throughout the movie. I was like, okay, when's something gonna happen? This is the movie. This is what's happening. This is all the hype. Like, oh, I was so mad.
Yeah.
It didn't win any Oscars though, right?
No, I think Brad Pitt got nominated.
I think he won it actually.
Or he won for best supporting
the
actor.
movie itself didn't. Because I'll admit the acting was good, except Margot Robbie, and that's not Margot Robbie's fault, because to me they gave her nothing to do.
Yeah.
I
don't think it won anything.
Apparently Tarantino has a foot fetish too. That's why he made her like show her feet a lot. I don't know, something like that.
What the heck?
Yeah, sorry, that was a little random. Yeah, he's weird. I won 2 Oscars. Brad Pitt. And Best Achievement in Production Design, of course. And that's what a lot of fans, like, came their pants about, because it was 1969 old Hollywood, and people loved that, apparently. But, I mean, not that I don't appreciate a good-looking movie, but, like...
Make a story around it.
Right. 2 hours and 40 minutes of looks. Sorry, 2 hours and 10 minutes of looks isn't going to do it for me, because at least the last 30 minutes had some story and excitement.
Yeah. True.
But it was nominated for Motion Picture of the Year, nominated for Best Director. Leo DiCaprio was nominated, which to me, he did a better job than Brad Pitt. I know it's actor versus supporting actor, but to me, Leo acted his ass off, and Brad Pitt was pretty good. Also, I know we've gone on a long time about this movie. What did you think about Brad Pitt's character? Like, the whole killing of his wife? Like, did he do it? Did he not do it?
Dude,
like,
that's a great... Thanks for bringing
that
up. I really wish they would have touched on that, because there will be no sequel to this movie. So what is the point of bringing it up?
Right.
He clearly did it though, right? Because they show a flashback to it, and they kind of allude that she's just complaining, and basically he does it. But why have that in the movie? Why is that part of his character? Why even talk about it? It doesn't have any impact. He still gets in the movie he wants to get into, and he still gets to be. Rick Dalton's, I think is his name, Rick Dalton's assistant, and
I think that's, well, I guess he was a stuntman no matter what, but I guess he's just really stuck with Rick Dalton because he can't do anything else because of his record, and nobody wants to work with him.
But nobody wants to work with him, but then Kurt Russell's the director on a project and lets him do it anyway. He's like, I don't want that guy because he murdered someone or whatever, and he's
but
like...
his wife was pissed about it, right?
Yeah, and they're like, dude, please just let him do it, and he's like, alright, fine. And there's just no point.
Kurt Russell's character was pretty annoying in that movie, too.
In the sense that that's a pretty decent actor and he didn't do much?
I also just thought he was annoying. I feel like I remember his scene just being a lot of excessive cussing that didn't make much sense.
Maybe, I don't know.
Being pissed about Brad Pitt or something.
I didn't get that.
And Brad Pitt's relationship with the hippie and her pickles and whatever the hell they were doing was also weird, but... Yeah, I don't know. I just thought Brad Pitt's character was weird, and I thought his acting was okay. I mean, he was like the kind of a strong silent type, so it's like... That wins Best Supporting Actor when Leo's just going through like a full range of emotions and doing all this crazy stuff and just gets nominated.
I guess, yeah.
It was a movie. I'm just glad you watched it.
I'm glad I watched it too, kind of.
We've already done a ranking of Tarantino's movies, haven't we?
No.
We could do that sometime, but you have to watch the others, I guess, and I think there's 1 or 2 I haven't seen. I saw most of his. He's got
I haven't seen Pulp Fiction.
You haven't?
No, I
so yeah, Pulp Fiction's long, Jackie Brown's long.
Is Pulp Fiction good?
Yeah.
I need to really watch that movie then.
I'll watch it with you. I need to re-see it.
Bet. What's your last review?
Hamilton. So, 2 hour, 40-minute musical. It's not even a movie. Like, they just recorded the musical in New York from 2016.
Oh, I did not know that.
Okay. Yeah, it was a 2016 recording, or that's when this particular show was recorded. And it's about Alexander Hamilton. Just right off the bat, very interesting story. Like, you know, in high school or just school in general, I feel like we barely learn about Alexander Hamilton. Really, the only thing I knew about him going in was he was Secretary of the Treasury, I think like the first one. He was never president, and he's on the $10 bill. Like, that's pretty much all I knew. And I feel like that's all they ever really taught us. And this play taught us a lot. Like, he's one of the most important founding fathers. He did a lot of stuff. Like, he's definitely up there with your Washingtons and Jefferson. And, you know, he was a big deal. And he fought in the Revolutionary War. He was like Washington's right-hand man. He was an immigrant, an orphan. Like, both of it, I think his dad left or both of his parents died. And so just a lot of crazy stuff. He like meets this girl, but the girl's sister, like, he meets like these rich sisters, and he has a thing for two of them and ends up marrying one, but him and the other one are, I guess, like, have a secret love or like a friendship. And then he ends up cheating on his wife and with some other chick that was setting him up, and both the wife and the sister are pissed at him, and there's just a lot going on. He has a son, and it's all done through hip-hop, basically. The whole story is told through song. Like, there's not a point where they're not singing, and pretty much everything they're singing is hip hop. They're like rapping the stuff, and like, it's accurate. Like, they're like saying like, obviously some of the lingo is more hip to our time, but like the story that they're telling is like, hey, you know, Revolutionary War, you know, the Continental Congress, the information is accurate, and it's about what's happening in the times, and it's accurate to the times, and it's just really entertaining. All the actors are great. It's a lot to memorize. Like, it's amazing how many movements and lyrics and all this stuff, especially Hamilton himself and a couple of the other main characters. I mean, they're singing in the entire show. To remember all of that, it's very impressive. And they're all really good singers. Like, nobody annoyed me. Like, nobody's like voice was bad. I'd say the person who might have been the most annoying was Hamilton's wife. She had a very high falsetto, like very high pitched voice, but she was still good. Like, she was hitting the notes. It's just I probably cared for her songs the least. King George in Hamilton was hilarious. He was probably my favorite character.
I hear he's good. I hear he's the best part.
Yeah, he was really funny. He was good, and a couple of the other guys were pretty funny. And yeah, it was really good. But again, long. So I watched it in 2 parts. I couldn't watch it all in one sitting. And I really don't like musicals, and I don't like storytelling through song. I don't like it when we're trying to learn a story and someone's like, oh, and they just break out in song, and this entire thing is in song. So I have a problem with that, but I guess the fact that it was rapped and it was so well done, it definitely made it more tolerable than the average musical. And the only thing is, I guess it's not really confusing because they let you know, but some of the characters in the first act play different characters in the second act because their original characters like get killed in the first act.
Interesting.
And I feel like I've already given you a few too many spoilers. I don't want to spoil it any further for you, especially if you end up watching it. But first act's pretty high energy, pretty fun. Second act definitely gets more serious because, you know, shit kind of starts to hit the fan. So a little bit more emotional in the second half, but overall, like, I get it. I get why it's hyped. Yeah. I think that it is. I didn't know what to expect though. Right. I didn't really know what. I knew that it was about Alexander Hamilton and that it had mostly rap, and stuff like that. I think my neighbor pointed this out to me when she had watched it. She had watched it a couple of times, and something that was kind of cool, like, for example, was like Thomas Jefferson during most of the Revolutionary War was in France, and so when his character comes back to America, he is wondering what he missed or like what's been happening, kind of thing.
Yeah.
and like he does it to like a jazzy show tune, which is kind of out of date and out of style compared to the hip hop.
Oh wow!
And so like little stuff like that was kind of like cool, because like he hasn't been around, so he's out of touch. But also I did like the jazzy tune. It was a nice change of pace and it was pretty upbeat. So little stuff like that, like those finer details were pretty cool.
Those are always cool, yeah.
So
Put that much care into it.
Yeah. So and yeah, it's long though. So yeah, they put a lot of care into it. And the set is pretty simple. Like it's one set. You know, they add small props to kind of let you know that now we're in a bar, now we're in the house, now we're in George Washington's office. But again, it's just the props that kind of do that. The set is pretty simple and the same throughout the show. Not that it matters. They make it work. But yeah, I pretty much have to give it a fuego. And I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. And again, I've already said I'm not a fan of musicals. But for what it is, and the fact that I don't like musicals, and I was invested through the whole thing, and it gave me an emotional response. You know, I laughed, I cried, I cared, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, definitely give it a fuego. And I feel like I learned way more about Alexander Hamilton in this time than they ever taught us in 12 years of school.
That's pretty crappy.
Right. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird how public school works. And I think they reference it in the play about how he's like probably one of the least talked about founding fathers, and he is pretty much just as important as any of the other ones.
Yeah.
It is pretty impressive, all the stuff that he did. So if you get a chance to watch it, definitely check it out. Me being a fan of history, too, like, that was probably my favorite and best subject in school, so that kind of helped me, too, have an interest in it, aside from the hip-hop aspect. Because there's some bars, some good stuff.
Some slaps.
Yeah, slaps.
Slaps, yeah.
Yeah, slaps. You think you're going to watch it?
I'd say it's 50-50.
Yeah. Has Beth ever mentioned it?
No, but I don't know if she knows it's around. I've heard from a lot of people though that it's really good. So, you know, if we get bored again, got to find something to watch. It'll be that.
Yeah, because I mean that's something you could, I guess, watch at work that would take 3 hours for you basically. It's long, but I don't know if you'd want to sit there and watch it by yourself, or anybody else would want to watch it with you.
I'd always rather watch a movie with someone else. So if I can do that, I would do that. Especially if I'm not 100% sure I'll enjoy it. So.
Yeah, I think you'll be able to tell after the first song.
Okay.
I mean, if you like, now granted, again, each song is different, but if you're just like after the first song, if you're not feeling it, you probably won't feel the rest of it. Like the first song, the intro is about 8 minutes. Like the first song / kind of getting you into the story, it's about 8 minutes, and yeah, I think it's a good judge. And if you're on the fence, if you don't know how you feel after the first song, then obviously keep going. But if you hate it,
then
after like 8 minutes,
that's all it is.
The rest of it's very similar.
Gotcha. Well, all right, there we go. 10 reviews.
10 reviews, 10 up, 10 down. Gave out some pretty good ratings. Lowest was probably Hollywood with Loki Garbo. Everything else was decent or better.
No garbagios.
Most of this stuff you can stream on Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, maybe some Netflix in there. I can't remember everything, but Hulu, of course, yeah, 'cause you had some shows. So basically, the big four, I would say, they're probably the 4 biggest streaming services. So hopefully you have those. Check that content out. Reagan, do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Create, consume.
Beautifully said. I have nothing to add to that. You guys have a great night.